So, welcome back. I'm Michał Brzoza-Brzezina, professor at SGH Warsaw School of Economics, and today I have a brief presentation for you about a recent working paper of ours, which is about information precision and the pandemic. So it's joint work with Grzegorz Wesołowski, and as usual, they use our own. So let me say first why we do it. We do it because there's been much work in the profession that shows that uncertainty or imperfect information can have an effect on the economy in various situations. And obviously the pandemic and policy around the pandemic was pretty uncertain, probably still is pretty uncertain. So in this paper, what we essentially do is we show how it works for the pandemic, and that's it. How do we do it? Just one slide about the model, no equations promised. We do use a standard macro model, a New Keynesian model, and we extend it for the presence of lockdowns. They can be either short-term or long-term, and in particular about the presence of imperfect information about the lockdown. So people do not know exactly what type of lockdown has been introduced. You can also think of it as people not knowing exactly how long the pandemic will last, and the lockdown being a result of this, of the pandemic developments. So people do not know, they only receive a noisy signal about how long all this would last. Okay, but the signal is imprecise, and that's our measure. Noise is our measure of imprecise information in this context. So what do we find? Just two results. If you want more, read the paper. The first result, maybe not very surprising, but pretty important, and driving actually also the second one, which I think is pretty interesting, is that a news shock, or a noise shock to be precise, a noise shock, so a false information shock about the pandemic lasting for long, or the lockdown lasting for long, can on its own generate a self-induced recession. Okay, so that's what you see on this slide is the impulse response of GDP. Here's time on the horizontal axis is time, on the vertical axis is the reaction deviation from baseline. 0 is the baseline, and that's deviation in percent of GDP to such a false information shock. Nothing happens fundamentally. It's just bad news. Okay, it's just bad news, and as you see, GDP goes down from baseline to approximately -3%, and then recovers only slowly as people learn that this shock was actually not a fundamental shock, but just information, just fake information. Okay, so that's the result number one. Now comes the result number two, related to the previous one. So what we do next is we check how this reaction depends on information precision. Okay, so this one was for our calibrated information precision, the one that we think occurred in the economy, but having a model, you can check how it looks like for other levels of information precision. So what we do for transparency, we just take this first initial reaction, okay, so this first point, and plot it against various levels of information precision. And this is the second slide, and actually I think our most interesting result. So information precision is on the horizontal axis. 0 means perfect information. People know exactly what happened, and not surprisingly, when information is perfect, then noise shocks just do not matter. Okay, people completely ignore any noise in the economy because they know precisely what's going on. But as information becomes less and less precise, the initial impact of a noise shock, of a fake news shock on GDP becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, up to some point. By the way, our initial calibration was somewhere here, up to some point, and then information becomes so imprecise that people start ignoring it again, and this reaction becomes less important. So somewhere for very, very imprecise information, actually this reaction goes back to 0. What are the policy implications? Well, the policy implications are as follows. We believe that the public sector, the government, has the means and the knowledge. They can hire the best epidemiologists. They have the means to communicate with the public and they should do it. They should do it. They should try to possibly override the cacophony, the imprecise information that is around in social media and so on, about the pandemic, about the policy and so on. This reduces the role of false information on economic fluctuations. We have seen this. However, importantly, and that's the conclusion from this slide, when information is initially very bad, so very noisy, then reducing the noise or improving information precision just a little bit may actually worsen the situation. So the impact of noise will be even bigger. So if it's initially very noisy, you cannot improve it just a little bit. You must improve it substantially to end up somewhere here in the left end of this picture. All right, so that's it. If you want to know more, please read the paper. You're welcome. It's a working paper of the Collegium of Economic Analysis of the Warsaw School of Economics. If you want to know even more, get in touch with us via email or any other means. Thanks a lot and see you next time.